Live.
We can come back and talk more about this, but I believe we do have Scott Horton with us on the line from Antiwar.com. Is this you, Scott?
I'm Scott. How's it going?
Hey, Scott. You're on Free Talk Live. Welcome to the program. Mark invited you on.
Thanks very much for having me.
Yes, sir. You do. You're the host of Antiwar Radio. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And have you done an episode in a little while? I had plugged you in on this little test stream that I've got going on that might become not so much a test stream soon. It might be launched kind of full time. But you were on there, and I noticed you hadn't done a show in a while. Is it on hiatus for the time being?
Well, as soon as we get the landline thing worked out here, we should be going back. I've taken a little break because I had to move from Austin, Texas, out here to sunny Los Angeles.
Okay, very good. I figured it was a holiday break or something like that, and you're actually moving. So look forward to having Anti-War Radio come back. I'm sure a number of our listeners are also listeners of yours, so they probably recognize your voice. People can listen to your show.
I can't wait to start interviewing people again. It's just killing me, all the stuff that's been happening and not being able to interview all my favorite guests about it.
People can go and listen.
I'm looking forward to getting back into it.
They can listen to your archives if they want over at antiwar.com/radio. Is that right?
Right.
Okay, great. So, Mark, you invited Scott on the show. What do you want to talk to him about?
Well, Scott, I've been getting bombarded with emails. I'm not even kidding. How many emails I've got in support of the Palestinians against the Israelis, and on air we've stated that essentially the United States shouldn't be giving any money to any foreign country for any purpose. It doesn't matter, war, peace, or whatever. And after that, once you say there shouldn't be any money, that's going to solve some huge problems in the foreign arena. But I did say something like, well, if they were lobbing missiles into my country, I don't know how you would handle that otherwise than invading. But I am saying that from a point of ignorance because I don't know that much about what's going on over there. So I'd like you to sort of clear some of it up. Who's bad here? Who's done what? And historically, and what's going on, Scott?
Well, first of all, I'd like to agree with you that it's none of America's business. I mean, that's the song I'm singing more than anything else. If we're talking about a war between, well, I was going to say Ethiopia and Somalia, but that's a bad example because, of course, that's America's war too. But anyway, pick a couple of countries that neither side is backed by America, and they have problems with each other.
Ethiopia and Eritrea.
Terrible civilians are dying, but as long as it's not my country's fault, then I'm not overly concerned, beyond just the average kind of abstract, it's sad that something terrible happened to people or whatever. But this fight is being made into my fight. And in order to bring that home and make that perfectly clear, when the Israelis bombed the Qana refugee camp in Lebanon in 1996, I think it was, Mohammed Atta, the lead hijacker of September 11th, filled out his last will and testament and swore that he was going to holy war against the United States and Israel. And 3,000 people died because of it. And, in fact, Osama bin Laden's original fatwa in 1996 came also on the heels of that Qana massacre. So what we're talking about here is it has everything to do with us, because every time Israel kills people in the occupied territories, they do so with American money and with American weapons, and everyone in the whole world knows it. Yeah. And, in fact, there's a book called Perfect Soldiers, which is biographies of the 9/11 hijackers by a L.A. Times reporter named Terry McDermott. And he talks about when the pilots, the inner core of the 9/11 plotters, when they would sit around in their apartment in Hamburg, they would talk about, we need to go kill Americans because of what Israel did today. And I think to a lot of Americans, that just makes no sense to them. They don't understand why it should be that any Americans have to suffer for what Israel has done.
Well, I can totally see that point.
Billions of dollars that are being spent on this occupation and on this war.
Right. They don't understand. They know that they can't do anything about Israel until they do something about America, and they know they can't do anything about America through its politicians. They can only do something by getting through to the people. I get that part completely.
Right, and in fact, it's about the first part you said, they can't do anything about Israel until they take care of us, and then so the strategy there is to basically use judo on us and to get us to strike out in such a way that we spend ourselves into bankruptcy. They're trying to replicate what they did to the Russians in Afghanistan in the 80s, and now they're doing it again to us.
We've spent a lot on these last two wars.
Working well.
Yeah, I mean, and in fact, I urge you and all your listeners to go back and read Osama bin Laden's speech of October 2004, where he just bragged and boasted the whole time and said, you're falling right in my trap. You're doing exactly what I want you to do. Just keep voting Republican. You know, this, of course, came out, like a week or week and a half before the election of 2004 and was widely seen, including inside the CIA, as bin Laden's attempt to help George Bush get reelected. And it worked. In fact, if you look at the poll numbers, you'll see that Bush gained a good 5 or 7 points or something from bin Laden's speech. But if you actually read it, you would see that what he's saying is, ha, you're doing everything I want you to do. And in fact, there's even a part where he says, all I have to do is write Al-Qaeda on a little piece of cloth and send 2 mujahideen to the furthest point east, and you'll send all your generals and all your billions of dollars racing.
Yeah.
And just mocking them. So anyway,
so I see that point now. I guess more, once we eliminate the, intellectually eliminate the idea of the United States giving money to anyone, and this definitely not being our war, what are the sides here, and who's the good guy and who's the bad guy? And is there? I mean, tell me about the goods and the bads of both sides.
The good guys are the innocent civilians.
Yeah.
On both sides. No one with power in the Middle East is a good guy, whether that's Hamas or Fatah or the government of Israel or Lebanon or Jordan or Egypt or anybody else. Well, you know me, I'm a libertarian. I don't think states are legitimate at all. But so in this case, neither side with power are the good guys to start with.
Well, so
but
I know that
the case that one side is the powerless underdog, and the other side is basically the regional hegemon superpower who can get away with bloody murder and call it self-defense.
So that's what's happening now is bloody murder, and they're calling it self-defense. What are the Palestinians doing to sort of egg Israel on? I just don't understand this scenario enough. I know they've been lobbing these essentially ineffective rockets into Israel. Maybe 4 or 5 people were killed. They decided they got sick of it, and they went in to the West Bank there, Gaza, whatever the heck it is, and started just wholesale bombing the hell out of places, including I think they went after some kind of shelter where they told people to go for safety and then bombed it. So I mean, you're talking about some really heinous stuff on the Israeli side, but do they have any legitimacy? I mean, what are the rights and the wrongs of both sides? I guess is where I'm coming from.
Well, it's a real complicated mess. Basically, the people of Palestine have been under occupation for decades. And Gaza, have you ever seen Escape from New York?
Yeah.
Yes.
The prison by the sea? And that's what Gaza is.
Now, I've been there.
It's just a giant prison. Have you been to Gaza?
I've either been to wherever Bethlehem is. Is that the West Bank?
I think that's on the West Bank, yeah.
Okay. I've been to both Israel and I've been to Palestine, and I can tell you which one I like better.
Yeah. Well, and for pretty obvious reasons. But the West Bank and Gaza both are occupied territory. And, I guess in 2005, Ariel Sharon pulled the settlements out of Gaza. And everybody said, oh, look, how, wonderful and magnanimous. But it was quite clearly simply a tactical move to make it easier to punish the people of Gaza. And they would no longer have Jewish human shields in the way. And as soon as they were done, as soon as they pulled the settlers out, or not very long after that, they put the place under blockade, which is an act of war.
Now,
they had this ceasefire worked out. Well, see, I'm skipping. What happened was also Bush and Condoleezza Rice and Ehud Olmert insisted that Hamas hold elections, or that the Palestinians hold elections. And George Bush said the Israelis don't have to deal with terrorists like Yasser Arafat and the Fatah movement. They don't have to deal with anybody unless those people are democratically elected. So they held a democratic election, and Hamas won.
Yeah.
And then they said, well, you don't have to deal with them, democratically elected or otherwise, because they're Hamas. And then they engineered an attempted coup d'etat, which was partially successful, and they reinstalled Fatah. Arafat, died in the meantime, and now they have this guy, Mahmoud Abbas, but who is obviously simply a puppet of America and Israel, and now he runs the PLO. And, of course, it could never be insisted that the Israelis deal with the PLO because, after all, they're terrorists and they're secular communists and this, that, and the other thing. Well, now, the PLO aren't so bad after all because the alternative is Hamas.